Hello crafters, this is Yana Smakula. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have 4 cards to share featuring the April 2021 Anita Jeram Illustrations release from Colorado Craft Company. This is my 3rd time sharing cards made with the stamps created from Anita's illustrations, and I'm just as excited as I was the first time I got to create with these products. Anita's illustrations are so whimsical, they're so pretty, and they are a treat to color because they are so simplistic. The images are quite detailed, but you can apply just a little bit of color and you have yourself very pretty results. There are quite a few new stamp sets releasing this month, mostly designed to work for Mother's Day and Father's Day cards, but the images in these can be adapted to cards and occasions all year round. And you'll see that the cards I have for you today aren't exactly geared towards Mother's Day or Father's Day. They're more generic. So here's a look at the new sets. These are all 4x6-inch clear stamp sets made in the USA. Very high quality products. These do have coordinating dies available. I don't have the dies to show you, but you can shop the dies on the Colorado Craft Company website and on the retailer websites who have these products. And I have links to all of these places in my video description below. I've said this in the past and I'll say it again, I adore the packaging of these sets. When you flip the packaging to the back, you can see the examples of how the images are colored. And to me, this is extremely useful because it gives me a pretty good idea how to color my images. You can also look up Anita's illustrations online. I like to go to Pinterest and you'll see a multitude of gorgeous images with her darling critters in all sorts of everyday scenes. And if you have trouble finding, well, you probably won't have trouble finding, but I usually just search for Anita Jeram Illustrations and I see all sorts of results. There are also 2 smaller stamp sets with sentiments, one for mom and female relatives and one for dad and male relatives. These allow you to build your own custom sentiments and customize your cards quite nicely. And finally, there's this last set with an adorable mouse. To me, these sets are all like precious little collectibles. I don't know why, but that's just the feeling that I get every time I hold one of these stamps in my hands. Let's go ahead and make a card, shall we? I started by stamping the image of the mouse from the For Dad stamp set in Memento Tuxedo Black ink onto Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock. And I used my Mini Misty stamping tool for this. As you'll see, I double and even triple stamp this image to get that nice black outline. All of my cards today feature a central focal point, a stamped image. There's also a sentiment stamped in black and a super simple outdoor scene created with Copic markers. My intention was to keep these cards as simple as possible to show you that you don't need to have mad coloring skills to make beautiful cards with these stamps. I stamped the same image onto another piece of paper, scrap piece, and my plan is to do dimensional spotlight technique or 3D decoupage technique, whatever you want to call it. And I did share this in my previous Anita Jeram video. Now the idea is to pop certain parts of the image up by adding an identical image over top with foam adhesive. It adds dimension, it adds interest, it makes the card unique without any special tools or tricks. My coloring today is very simple. There's no blending taking place, there is just layering of color. I start with the lightest color, I apply it to the parts of the image. I try not to color the entire critter, but keep parts of the fur free from coloring so that it looks white. That adds so much interest to the coloring, and it is so easy to do. All you need to do is to skip a portion of the image when you color to keep that section white. I used my Copic markers in color E51, RV00, E31, and E33 to color the baby mouse. Next, I used E51 as the lightest color, and here you can clearly see how I skipped coloring over his belly and kept it white. These probably aren't the typical colors to color a mouse. but I don't really care. I wanted these critters to have a little bit more color to them, so I opted to use these marker colors today. I didn't want these to be white. Next, I used a Y35 to intensify the color on his back and also used YG14 to add some darker patches of color. Notice that I didn't blend anything, and also I colored in a very freestyle way. I was almost adding scribbles with the tip of my markers I was coloring. I was trying to have scribbles resemble fur, and that's the easiest way to color these, I think. Now, I did follow the example on the packaging. I didn't use the same colors. I didn't follow it to the letter, but I did try and replicate the spots on the fur when coloring, and I did use the example in the packaging as inspiration for my coloring. And like I said, that makes the packaging of these stamp sets very useful and very handy. So make sure you save the packaging when you get your stamps. Next, I used my scissors and I cut the image out right up to the edge. The idea is to cut it right along that black stamped line so that when the image is mounted over the same stamped image on the background, you can see the background image a little bit as well. Then you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Here I have the background panel colored, and I also have both of my critters colored and cut out. Next, I need to build my scene because right now we just have a blank white background. I am imagining the critters being outside, the father lying in grass, and the son jumping on top of him. This is a very beautiful spring or sunny day with a fine blue sky and fresh green grass. I'm not one who is good at freehand coloring, so I never opt for adding any free hand-drawn elements like trees or clouds or sun or anything like that. Instead, I just like to add dots of color to fake the appearance of sky and grass. So all you do is dot, 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 and you have yourself a cluster of blue dots that look like sky and a cluster of green dots that look like grass. It doesn't get any easier than this. When adding the dots to make grass, I start with the lightest marker and add quite a lot of the light green dots. Next, I use my medium marker and I add about a half of the number of dots, so less dots. And finally, I use the darkest green marker and add even less dots with that color. This seems like the magic dot formula to me, and it works. I used this technique on all of my cards today, and I think that turned out really well. Next, I added a sentiment and I stamped it in black ink. This is VersaFine Onyx Black ink. It reads, "You're a blessing in my life." And then I stamped the rest of the sentiment on the inside of this card. Looks very beautiful, and I love it when the sentiments start on the front and then continue onto the inside. Next, I created an A2 white card base, and I covered the front with light blue cardstock. This is Glacier from Spellbinders. For these cards, I often like to add some additional color with the help of colored cardstock, and I add a panel of cardstock to the background. I foam mounted my background panel onto the card. Now I did trim the panel to 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and finally I foam mounted my critters on top. I added foam adhesive squares to the back, and then even a super skinny strip to his tail, and foam mounted the mice onto the card. So here is a close-up. You can see how adding that second identical layer changes up the card completely. It adds so much interest and depth to this simple scene. Now for this next card, I wanted to show you that you don't have to pop up the entire image. You can pop up just parts of it. I have this adorable chubby cat from the Dad's Cooking stamp set, and I'm going to pop him up and his hat along with the chef's outfit and the pancake that he is frying. Popping just parts of the image helps to add natural dimension without having to do very complicated coloring. I do prefer to color both images, the one on the background and the one that will be placed over top, as I like to see the color of the image in the background when I'm looking at the card from the side. It doesn't take long to color, especially since the coloring is so simple, and it does add to the overall look of the project, so that's why I prefer to color both images. Here, I've cut the pieces I want to pop up, and I'm just working on my summer scene by adding the light blue dots to mimic sky. Once again, I trimmed the panel to 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches and foam mounted the cutout pieces on top. To make a sentiment for this card, I stamped one that reads, "Best Chef Ever," and I cut it out using scissors. I also stamped the little Anita Jeram signature. I actually love to add Anita's signatures to my cards that I make with Anita's illustrations. I don't know why, but it just looks really nice to me that way. I foam mounted the panel onto an A2 white card base. I covered the front with yellow cardstock, and this is beeswax from Spellbinders, and foam mounted the sentiment on top. The other cards I have for you today were all made in the same way. They feature the same simplistic coloring, the same simple scenes made using the blue and the green markers, and all but one have parts of the image popped up to add interest. I hope you found this video useful. If you make a card inspired by this video, I'd love it if you shared your project online and tagged me on social media. I always love seeing what you guys are making. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel. Do ring the bell icon if you haven't yet done so. Thanks so much for joining me today. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!